Thank you so much for attending my presentation about the Groudon problem, and first let's look at the current VGC format. Right now we're in the middle of Regulation G, where each team is allowed only one restricted legendary. These are what you might refer to as box legendaries, the Mewtwo's, Palkias, and Lunalas of the world, in comparison to regular legendaries like Landorus or Zapdos. This format makes your restricted legendary by far the most important part of your team. You only get one, so you need to make it count. Because of this more, for lack of a better term, restricted rule set, Regulation G creates heavy meta centralization. While in a dual restricted format, you could probably find some use for an off-meta pick, here there just isn't room. However, Groudon looks pretty great at first glance. It has monstrous stats both on offense and defense while having a high value ability in Drought. If Pokemon as mediocre as Torkoal see consistent usage just for being able to set Sun, imagine what a ball of numbers like Groudon could accomplish. So what's wrong with it? Groudon has access to some pretty good attacking moves. Heat Crash, High Horsepower, Rock Slide, Thunder Punch, the list goes on. But by far its most important damaging move is Precipice Blades, a 120 base power spread attack that, unlike competitor Earthquake, doesn't affect your partner. This sounds insane and honestly is, well at least 85% of the time. P-Blade's downfall isn't something like a type immunity, recharge turn, or lower power, it's accuracy. While 85% doesn't sound that bad at first, you need to remember that you're clicking this move a lot. When it hits, Precipice Blades deals an obscene amount of damage and is very difficult for even Resist to take comfortably. But man, this move feels awful to use. You only hit both opposing Pokemon about 72% of the time, which really isn't all that great when you use the move 3 times per game. Running Groudon at a major tournament is conceding the fact that you're risking throwing away the entire trip, which costs hundreds of dollars and tons of time, over this move. And for a lot of people, that understandably isn't worth it. Groudon's counterpart Kyogre doesn't have to face this issue nearly as often, getting to rely on the 100% accurate Water Spout. But even then, it does need to click Origin Pulse a fair amount of the time, which is still a huge factor in its lower usage. While 15% isn't a high number on its own, it really adds up. The second issue is Koraidon, a new sunsetting restricted legendary that directly competes with Groudon. The Ancient Beast sports a comparable attack stat, much better speed, and the brand new ability Orichalcum Pulse. This not only sets Sun on switch-in, but gives its attack a 1.33 times boost, bumping its damage output from really good to best in class. And it doesn't have to rely on Precipice Blades, getting to click the ultra strong Collision Course and Flare Blitz. This immediately makes Groudon feel almost obsolete. Sure, it's got some better longevity, but in Gen 9's min-max landscape, is that really worth it? After all, you can't kill Koraidon if Koraidon kills you first, a tenet that Groudon doesn't really follow. Instead of blowing up a Zamazenta before it can move, the continent Pokemon is taking a hit, rolling the dice on P-Blades, and hoping it can deal enough damage to withstand the onslaught of faster Pokemon. It just struggles to keep up, especially when there's a new shiny alternative that screams modern VGC. Of course, Groudon isn't useless. There's always going to be a market for a physically bulky Sunsetter that can click spread moves, which it fits nicely. It especially loves being alongside Jumpluff, a fast sleep abuser and tailwind setter that gives Groudon the time it needs to safely click P-Blades. This guy got 2 top 8 finishes at the Birmingham Regionals plus another in San Antonio. This is still great, it just isn't going to be seeing the same highs it saw even in Sword and Shield. Groudon is solidly outside of the restricted upper echelon, getting smoked in usage by the Calyrexes, Miraidon, Terapagos, and Zamazenta, while also losing out to Kyogre and Koraidon. Instead, it's on the outside looking in. Groudon, Lunala, and Zacian are all much more fringe picks, having problems that hold them back. However, they aren't bad. These guys can still pack a serious punch, as we saw this last weekend with Bezod Muntazir winning Vancouver Regionals with Lunala. These are still tournament threats and can be used to great success on the right teams. All this to say, while Groudon has some serious flaws, don't count it out. In conclusion, Groudon is in a weird spot right now. When it works well, it works really well, but with the unreliable Precipice Blades and a new face in Koraidon, it can be tough to justify. Even so, keep it on your radar for the Atlanta Regionals in early April. It could have a huge run. Thank you so much for watching.